Hello, everyone, and welcome to our March installment of the Accounting Web's Practice Excellence series. I'm your host and tour guide for today, Allison Ball. Our topic today is creative ways to solve the talent shortage in your firm. And I think this is something everyone can resonate with, that accountants and bookkeepers and tax pros and consultants are in high demand. And demand is up and supply is down. And so that's what we're going to talk about today is how these three practitioners have solved it in their firms. So it's interesting that you have such diverse practices, really very different. You're geographically diverse, your sizes are diverse. You've approached the sort of do we all agree that there is a talent shortage, or do we think it's just an issue that if you give the right incentives, people will join. Like, what are your thoughts? I don't mind who goes first. What are your thoughts about the actual talent shortage? Is this real? Is it something that the world is facing right now?
These two things have come to a head,
They kind
and
of knocked in. Yeah, so
yeah,
generational and the COVID situation, and then also the retirement out of. And David, I think what you talked
yeah,
about there, the attitudinal thing may have been part of the challenge of what you were seeing. Tanya, you've got an interesting situation because you've created this very um, unique way of handling the capacity. You don't have like you have capacity. I mean, you have basically clients coming to you all the time, right? Because you're actually very well known in the industry. And I would imagine you pretty much have to turn away. So, how do you think about your balancing your firm's workload with, because I know you've got younger people working with you. You mentioned your daughter is working for you.
Yeah.
So that's a younger person who maybe doesn't want to work all those hours. I don't know. So how are you thinking about it in your firm?
Yeah, I was actually chuckling inside a little bit while Steve was talking because I grew up, I'm just going to use this term. I grew up in a home of a workaholic. My dad was one of those folks that worked 6 days a week, 12-hour days. And when I started this business, I just sort of fell right into that. And
Mhm.
Allison, you've met my husband, Joe. He's an amazing man. And I'm grateful forever for his presence in my life because one night at like 9 p.m. on a Friday, I was working. Actually, it wasn't even that late. I was going to be probably working till 9 p.m., but it was about 5 p.m. on a Friday. And I was just frantically working away at my laptop. And Joe walked in and shut the laptop down. It was about 2 years into having owned this firm. And he
Mhm.
said, listen, in 2 years, the kids and I have not seen you. You've been sitting here at this desk in front of this computer. We miss you. We don't think it's fair, and we're not doing it anymore. He said, I've booked us a staycation across town. That's staying here, and you're coming with us. And
that's
it
cool.
was really the opening of my eyes to be like, oh, I don't have to work six
Yeah.
days a week, 12-hour days, the way that I was raised. There's a different way, and there's a way that I can delegate or that I can say
Yeah.
no to certain work. Like there's ways to do this in a way that's going to be far more effective to being able to spend time with my family.
Yeah.
And so we just, at that point, made a decision that we were never going to require anybody to work more than 40 hours when they joined our team. And a lot of
Mhm.
times we have what we call full time equivalent employees who work sometimes 40 hours a couple of weeks out of the month. And a lot of times they're working half time other weeks out of the month when we're not doing month end close and things like that.
Mhm.
Can you imagine? That would be heresy or blasphemy in years past.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And not judge you tremendously. You joked, Steve, that you meet your customers on their worst, most stressed out day, right?
absolutely.
You
And they
know.
all know that they can call me personally on my cell phone
Right.
anytime, day or night, if they're in a critical work
Mhm.
stoppage. The
And
last
David,
thing,
the same. Answering the questions, like just being available as leaders. I think that's super important. Sorry, Steve, I cut you off on your
I was
last.
just saying, I'm motivated by food, so there's lots of food around all the time too. So,
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think pre webinar we are talking about Steve needs some cheese for this.
yeah,
You're all getting cheese as your reward for
all the food
being here.
around.
Cheese is the currency of the world. How do you
Uh,
how do you think about retention and employee motivation, as a strategy in your firm?
Yeah, it's actually something that we've thought about for a long time. So our firm is originally envisioned when I sat down with my husband Joe and said, "What should we do about this?" And he said, "Oh, I could see us one day in a big building, with all these offices." And I said, "I never see that. I want us to be remote." So
Yeah.
long before COVID, when we first envisioned this firm, we were a remote team. which worked out great because one of the first people that I wanted to bring on to the team after leaving being solopreneur worked in a different state, and I knew that I wanted to attract her, and I knew that I wanted to retain her. So for one, working from home was long before COVID a strategy that we had around that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think this has been, by the way, we've just got another minute or so, but this has been, thank you all three for sharing your expertise so deeply. Um, I heard a couple of things that I think I'd like to recap. Um, I think David, your willingness just to explore, a little bit beyond your comfort level, but doing the due diligence. I think, make yourself happy about the security if you're going to do, outsourcing. Choose good choose good partners and make sure you've done that. Document the processes. I think all of you stressed the importance of documenting processes. Um, Steve, hiring, going and recruiting, having an intentional recruitment at the smaller universities and colleges. Um, and then Tanya, thinking differently about just where your firm begins and ends and how you can kind of overlap. Just absolutely fascinating, to me that there's these, and then I think retention. I think retaining and making sure that you're creating a great environment for your team. Um, and if you are remote, you've got to make time for the social stuff because I work in my home office alone most of the day, and I'm actually considering adding a co-working space just so I can get a little bit of people action, right? So just going and working with other people, they're strangers, but just being around people, right? I think some of these things are really important. Well, we are literally at time, and I want to thank all of you. I hope this was fun. Um,
Was.
do send me your preferred type of cheese, and I will send that to you. We'll have an email. Thank you all.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it.
So
Thank
thank
you.
you.